Hi, Christina. Good evening. Well, we will be waiting for a couple of seconds so that your fellow friends from the same batch will also join in and take the advantage of such a brilliant webinar that we have hosted. We are hosting you for today. So let us just wait for a couple of seconds more. Very good evening, Ravindra. Good evening, Ishan. Good evening, Shobha. Good evening, Simranjeet. All right. So, once again, good evening, everyone. And with great joy and excitement, the entire Mindler team extends a heartfelt and warm welcome to each and everyone who has been present here today. We are thrilled to witness the rapid increase in the number of participants, making this colloquium an even more enriching experience. Today, we are honored to have a panel of distinguished personalities whose brilliance knows no bounds, gather here to share their invaluable insights on the webinar of Unleashing Potentials Through Experiential Learning, Transforming Careers Exploration for Students. And without a further ado, it's my utmost pleasure to introduce these exceptional individuals to you all. Our first panelist with us is Professor Bulbul Chaudhary. Professor Bulbul Chaudhary is an academician with more than 22 years of experience in higher education in art and design sector. A science graduate and a university rank holder from Delhi University, she went on to be all-rounder topper at NIFT, New Delhi. Professor Bulbul has handled accounts of some of the world's leading apparel brands, including Gap, CK, Tommy Hilfiger, to name a few. She has been associated as a Faculty for Design Studies department head, external examiner, admissions head, and national head for some of the country's leading design schools, including NIFT, DSK, Pearl Academy, Army Institute of Fashion, Amity, and is currently serving as the Pro Vice Chancellor, Admissions and Partnerships at Atlas Skill Tech University. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. Moving ahead, we have with us Professor Nitin Shrotri. Professor Nitin Shrotri is a highly accomplished auto industry expert in new product development, project management, and product management who is passionate about consulting and coaching. He is having a vast industry experience of 25 plus years and has delivered multiple projects in esteemed organizations like Tata Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra, Grievous Limited. In 2018, he started Quantum Leap Consultants, who is into consulting and training in the areas of market research, project and product management. He has authored of 12 books. He is an MBA program chair and teaching operations and marketing subjects to BBA MBA students from Vijay Bhumi University, Mumbai. He holds a BE degree and postgraduate executive management program and is also a certified PMP and CPM. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Our next speaker with us is Dr. Garima. Dr. Garima is an assistant professor of economics at the Masters Union School of Business in Gurgaon, Haryana. Her research focuses on the service absorption capacity of manufacturing businesses in India and abroad, and its corresponding effects on international trade. Understanding how the manufacturing sector differentially values a given spectrum of services and the various channels by which services might improve manufacturing industry export potential are her study focus. She obtained her PhD in economics from IIM Bangalore in 2023. Dr. Garima research interests are international economics, development economics, along with micro and macroeconomics and econometrics as her teaching interest. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us today. Our last speaker with us is Professor Elora. Professor Elora has about 12 years of extensive experience in various domains, including business development, operations management, sales and distribution, marketing, and media management. Her expertise has been acquired in both the Indian and Middle Eastern markets. Furthermore, she holds a faculty position at Universal AI University, where she imparts knowledge in subjects as entrepreneurship, integrated business communication, distribution management in India, and global political economy. In addition to her teaching role, she also serves as program director at Universal Business Schools. She plays a significant role in managing and overseeing academic programs. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. Last but not the least, our moderator of today. So Ms. Prasanna. Ms. Prasanna began her career as an IT professional working in India and Spain before finding her actual calling, which is working with students. She has more than 10 years of experience teaching maths and Spanish in international schools in China and India. As a teacher and senior class advisor, she has spent a lot of time talking to students to understand what inspires and motivates them. She is now putting these insights and experience to use as a career coach to help students make informed decisions about their future. Thank you so much, everybody. From now on, I'll give the stage to Prasanna.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya. Good evening, everybody. A warm welcome to all our ICCC participants. I know it's been a long day of great learning for all of you, and a very warm welcome to our esteemed panelists. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. We're really looking forward to your insights. So, as we all know, that's what we've been discussing the entire day. Career selection is one of the most important decisions that any person can take, whether it's a student or adult. And therefore, an opportunity to have possibilities of career exploration is very, very important. And since the career landscape is changing so rapidly, it becomes even more important, right, to have the opportunity to explore different careers before finding something which is the best fit for us. So to set the tone for this, and just so that we're all on the same page and the participants understand what exactly experiential learning is, I would like to open up the question to all the panelists first, and then we'll deep dive into each, some other questions separately. So first, we can go in the order of Dr. Bulbul, Dr. Nitin, Dr. Garima, and then Dr. Elora. So what is experiential learning? How is it different from traditional classroom-based learning? And how does experiential learning, how is it effective in shaping students' career paths? Dr. Bulbul, just a quick 2 to 3 minute answer, and then we can kind of deep dive into.
Thank you. You've been very kind. Well, thank you for having me, and I'm sure all of us here. You've been a little extra kind. I'm not a doctor yet. I'm doing my thesis, but God willing, this should happen sooner than planned. Okay. Well, I think experiential learning, as the word suggests, is practice, right? Practical learning. And actually, well, as a concept, we've already known it back in school when you went to a theory class in the morning and you learned that copper salts are blue in color. And then when you went to the laboratory and actually saw it, or you knew H2S has a certain smell, and then when in the laboratory you actually saw it, you knew exactly what you had learned, what were the properties of certain compounds or chemicals, and then you actually applied it. And I think that integration has always existed, and a certain balance of theory and practical were required for you to be able to appreciate the properties of what you were dealing with. And I think the quest is to be able to bring in that balance of theory and practical. I'm a big champion, of course, practical learning, because having been in a design space, well, majority of what we do is practice and practical, right? Yes. Design is actually practice. And the more you practice, the better you become, more perfect you get. But I definitely think that a certain balance of theoretical knowledge brings in a certain kind of stability, depth, and an appreciation of a lot of work done by people in the past, right? And of course, a practice brings in your own personal experience of applying everything that people may have done in the past and your own experience into making it real for you. And I think this balance is what most universities strive to sort of get at. I think that's probably my opening notes.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Bulbul. Professor Nitin?
So good evening, first of all, to everyone, and excited to share my views on this topic. I would like to start with a Sanskrit Subhashit. Okay, so it is not new for us as a culture. There is a saying, "Pustake patitaha pathaha, jivane naiva sadhitaha, kim bhavena tena pathena, jivane yo nirarthaka," which means that if we learn from books but don't use the learning in actual life or in professional life, what is the use of that learning? Okay. While traditional classroom-based education gives students knowledge about concepts, tools, techniques, experiential learning makes them aware about the practical environment and develops problem-solving and risk-taking attitude in them. Okay. So just to give an example, recently we had given a project to our fresher MBA or BBA students to promote a particular location as a tourist destination. In classroom, we taught them about the project brief, tools and techniques, all these things, and interesting information about the locality, which was base. But the real world experience, when we took them to the locality, they really, as she said, the colors, like they could understand, they could touch, they could realize the beauty of the nature, and now they can project it in a proper manner, more effective way. This is a practical or experiential learning. what they could get from the actual live experience. So there are benefits for students like getting ready for job, making them more confident and capable, taking leap to begin a startup. Okay. Whereas for organization, less need and time for training them to start the actual work. And just an example, we have got a student whose project was funded by SIDBI, and he continued the project which he had started in the academia during incubation, and he made it as a startup. Okay. So that is what is the actual benefit, real life. So these are the things what I think, okay, about experiential learning.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Professor Nitin. Dr. Garima.
Hi, thank you for the question, Ms. Prasanna. While I'm happy to deep delve into the topic much later into the conversation, experiential learning program is anything that gives a student hands-on experience, according to me. And that would mean a good level of understanding, enhancing the understanding. And I would know that the program has been fully successful if the understanding and the knowledge remains with the student in the long run. So anything that helps you with retention of information is absolutely experiential. For example, in our marketing classes, if we are teaching you a go-to-market strategy, you definitely need to go out and try that in your own business. In Masters Union, it is compulsory for our undergraduate students and postgraduate students to start a business and actually pitch it to real investors. So these are the kind of examples in experiential learning we want to, map our learnings in traditional classrooms, establish the theoretical framework, and actually practice it in the evening while executing their ideas. So that's what we mean by experiential learning.
Experiential learning. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Garima. Professor Laura?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, I cannot switch on the camera because mobile, it will be very, distracting to everyone. Sorry. Yeah.
No problem.
Yes, ma'am. So you are asking a question about what experiential learning means. Is that how
exactly.
it is?
Yes.
I think, I would start with the quotation like, no learning without action and no action without learning. So experiential learning, in a way, you can say it is an action-based learning. So only when we do something after we learn, we apply. That's how, the earlier speaker said, we remember it for a longer time. We understand it better, right? So this experiential learning is an approach that emphasizes on hands-on experiences and active engagement of our students. And definitely it will give practical insights to our students and into various professions, various domains. So that is what I think experiential learning, if you want me to tell in one sentence.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So as we know that because of COVID, after that there's been a lot of emphasis and a lot of a big rise in virtual experiential learning, right? Virtual simulations, virtual internships, etc., etc. So in what way do these create a realistic learning experience, right? And so they cannot obviously replace being able to do that in person, but having a real internship in a real company. But how do you think these would actually, how realistic are they? And because this obviously has a big future, right, with technology, and then it's accessible to everybody much more easily. So what do you think, Professor Bulbul? Virtual simulations, simulators, virtual internships, etc., especially in a field like yours, art and design.
Prasanna, roughly about maybe 10 years back, I remember having gone through a paper by McKinsey on virtual internships. And this was to bring in real life experience to a very large number of students who may not have access to a first-hand internship, maybe also depending on, if you're in a remote location where you don't have access to internship opportunities of the kind that you look for. And in a real environment, in a real internship situation, I'm not talking about a virtual one right now, I think it is extremely important to be very careful about the type of internship that you're getting for young people. And when I look back at life, I can remember situations that the lasting impression sort of still stays with me from the kind of people that I interacted with, what was their backgrounds, what was their set of values, right? Because at that age, you're so impressionable that becomes real life for you. Your first bosses and what they stand for in terms of mission, values is really becomes an organizational set of inputs, and also an intern's set of inputs, right? And I think very careful, we have to be extremely careful about the kind of opportunities available to children, the kind of task given to them. Do we value the input they bring to? Because at that time, their learning experiences are very little. So are we using them as something that, an organization must have in a tick box on the internship? Or are we sincerely putting an effort to be able to understand them and find them the right kind of opportunities? And I know I'm digressing, but very recently I've gone through a certain internship program that was meant for 3 youngsters, where the youngsters and the organization worked. And these were students right after class 12th or in some part of their journey. And this was an NGO. But they worked for almost 2 months together in finding the right kind of opportunity for them to teach in a certain school in Uttarkashi. But this was, they were coming to teach sciences, they were coming to teach mathematics. So they were actually doing a teaching assignment. And they actually sat with the children in the village. They made a solar cooker, they did their own cooking. But you're in a village where you don't have access to material. You can't go to a shop and buy all the material that you require to buy a solar cooker, which means the kids needed to source all of these material and carry it with them to wherever they were trying to get at. Now, when the learning outcomes was made by the student themselves, and practice sessions on what would go wrong when you were taking a first-time class in your life. And these 3 students sat together for 2 months, planning each day, pretty much first-time teachers. When these kids, 3 of them left this particular school I'm talking about, which is only till grade 8, nobody wanted to let go of them, right? Yes. But that to me was a real internship curated by the students, very purposeful, bringing out their innate strengths, and almost as though they were in command. In fact, the NGO itself that planned this workshop was only sort of helping them get what they wanted, get them there, look after their own safety, give them the things to follow. There is very little water in a village. You have to wash your own clothes. You have to do all of these things yourself. But I think what emerged out of it for me was wonderful, because this was not as though somebody gave you a letterhead and say, turn up for internship on a certain day, coming from an HR. Fine, well done. You did a good job, good model, whatever. This to me was the real way of doing an internship, where the person who's interning is as involved in his internship. And of course, you can't do it for masses. But if several of such opportunities rose. And by the way, we called it the summer school for the village kids, right? Because that's the time. So it was a summer school in the hills. And I think, but one had to be also very careful about picking up the right students to be able to go to these kids. Because you don't want to look like
not everybody can do it.
And not like another set of people coming from a city, right? And to feel a village life and sort of create a distinction between who you are and who the kids are. Really become them for that moment. But coming back to your question on virtual, and a real internship has all of these touch, feel, emote, everything that is available to you. And I think as human beings, this is one capacity we have to hold on to, to be able to connect with one another in a world which is so virtual.
Yes.
Having said so, COVID taught us that and access to a large number of people is available through technology, through curated case studies, real life case studies or internships that can be extended into building brilliant opportunities. Especially, yes, you're right, in a design space or in a creative space or wherever, largely because these people come together as teams, right? We live in times where no one product is ever designed by an individual. Gone are the times of an iconic designer who is the designer for Samsung, not one individual, it's a team of people.
Correct.
And if the task is laid out well, and again, I'll come back to a good internship depends on the quality of mentorship available to a young person, right? So how invested is the mentor? How invested is the mentor in teaching, working with, and fostering the growth of this individual boils down to how well an internship could be in real life or even virtual.
Or even virtual, yes.
Virtual.
Yeah. So thank you, Professor Bulbul. Yeah,
Pleasure.
Thank you. So taking off on that, Professor Nitin, many internships, whether it is virtual or in person, internships or experiential learning opportunities, other than skill development specifically, how does experiential learning contribute to students' personal growth, right? Resilience, teamwork, communication, so all the other skills other than just skill development. So, and how would that be done in person versus a virtual situation?
Okay. So actually, students can learn a lot from success as well as failures faced during the experiential learning, more from failures than success. They get used to accept and face challenges, take risks, digest failure, and fight back strongly, which they cannot learn from books. Okay. They theoretically can learn, but they do not know what is the potential of that challenge. Okay. How much is the pain of facing a failure, that they will not know. These are emotions. Okay. But they have to accept those emotions and work upon that to fight back. Okay. I always promote as a tracker, although I'm an automotive expert, I am a tracker also. So what I always say, that entrepreneurs or even professionals, they must start trekking. Why? Because apart from bringing them near to the nature, giving them a lot of joy, trekking gives them an attitude of taking risks. Okay. And taking risks is the first and foremost aspect of any entrepreneurship. I have seen students who are very, very, means they fear even to come out of their rooms to go for a trek. I have seen that. So if they are not willing to do that, what they will do in as an entrepreneur? Okay.
Yes.
So this is just an example. It is not like only trekking is the way, but it is one of the best ways to maintain your health, go to the nature, and more than that, as a professional or as a, what you can say, entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur, it creates a lot of risk taking, challenges,
Yes.
accepting challenges, planning. Okay. Because during trekking, you have to do so many things at a time. Okay. So this is one of the examples. Okay. So learning about things theoretically and knowing them through experiential learning are two totally different things. Okay. Risk taking, decision making, delivering under pressure, these are the things you cannot learn from books. Okay. They get developed through experiential learning only. Okay. And a stronger, resilient mindset, ability to take things till a logical finish. Okay. And looking things from all angles with complete perspective are some of the changes in the mindset that happen to them when they go through the experiential learning. Okay. And as a professor of practice, I'm an industry person. I'm not a research scholar. Okay. So that is not my expertise. My expertise is industry experience, expertise. Okay. And I believe that anything you teach, it has to be given an example of practical, like whatever I have done as a project, I give that example and I try to make them, means doing something out of that, so that they learn these skills practically. Okay. So as a professor of practice, what I try to do and give this mindset or skills, I try to give my students multiple application exercises, cases and projects based on my automotive industry experience. So that is the way I try to inculcate this kind of mindset to them. And also means because it is entertaining also, I try to take them to nature through local tours or through
Correct.
treks. So that also is a kind of project.
Correct.
That are my views. These are my views.
Thank you so much, Professor Nitin. Dr. Garima, so how do you think experiential learning, we also want to talk about how experiential learning can help, is beneficial to students when they are trying to explore different career paths and find what would be absolutely suitable, the best fit for them, right? Because as we know, it is not, sometimes students do take something just because they've heard that it's a good thing, but finally once they're in it, like they realize this is not for me. So there is obviously a lot of knowledge about medicine and engineering and these kind of things, lots they can talk about. But how can experiential learning help students explore non-traditional or emerging career paths that may not be that well understood? Or, at least people within their community, for example, don't know it, parents don't know it, they're like, what kind of career is this? We've never heard of it. So how would experiential learning, virtual simulators, virtual internships, or in-person experiential learning, how would it benefit them in understanding these careers?
I will speak from real example, what is happening to my students right now. I have my fourth batch come over here for their MBA program and their undergrad program, and they are not sure of what career opportunity that they are interested in. So I have students come to me asking questions, ma'am, marketing kare or product management kare? And I have a person coming and asking me, ma'am, do I take up this job offer that pays me this much money? Or do I try my own business idea that I've been thinking for quite some time? I think through experiential learning programs, these kind of settings will actually help students answer these questions before actually finishing their degree and trying for themselves. To give you an example, in our institute, in term one, it is compulsory for every undergrad and every postgrad student to participate in something called dropshipping business. A dropshipping business gives the students an opportunity to set up an online e-commerce store and basically sell and source products to final consumers. In these operations, students are required to form teams of 5, focusing on a marketing officer, data officer, logistical provider, CEO, CTO. So what we do is give these students that, you know what, if you want to try marketing as your full-time career after finishing this degree, why don't you take up the role of a CMO in this dropshipping business challenge? And so on for CEO, so on for CFO. So these students in all these terms actually build a business, carry out these roles of people, and actually finish these jobs before sitting for placement. So these are the kind of examples and ways by which experiential learning program could be helpful. Another way by which we do the same is in term 2, we launch something called the Creator Challenge. In Creator Challenge, again, it is optional for the student to become an influencer and actually try to market their products or services, or even pick up their expertise in any domain comfortable to them and give out information. So other than that, being a creator, we also give opportunity for students to set up an online cloud kitchen and see if they want to operate in dropshipping food business, and so on and so forth. So there are so many opportunities available, and I think this kind of innovative curriculum can actually be merged with the traditional courses ongoing. So that is how the students can actually practice before actually trying to see if I can preach it after 2 years or 4 years down the line or not. So I think that's the way going forward for not just business schools, for any school. You talked about virtual reality. I think the importance of virtual reality is actually propping up because we see this increasing Zoom fatigue of students. There's very low engagement of students on online. And just because COVID introduced us to these problems, they have been long existence because distance learning programs have always been there. So virtual reality can actually, come and help in simulating a classroom for these students and help them engage. And the options and the ways by which VR can help is limitless. So I can go on and on, but these are some of the points that come to me.
Great. Then I will come back to you and ask you more questions about specifically that in the next round. Great. Dr. Laura, so given the current setup of, say, schools, universities, they have a fixed curriculum, things have to be taught a certain way, there is portions to finish, exams to write, etc., right? So teachers and schools are already under a lot of stress to make sure that they are able to finish all this, prepare kids for all the various entrance exams, etc., writing. So given this setup, how can experiential learning be integrated into the existing educational approach so that current framework within schools and colleges, so that it gives the opportunity for students to be able to understand different kind of careers and choose what is best for them?
Yeah, very, very the question that I was looking forward to in a way, right? I wanted to express my own experiences, like other panelists are sharing their experiences of their colleges. We, ma'am, we have created something very unique academic model where like 50% is classroom teaching, where faculty is actually delivering lectures or the theoretical frameworks, right? And the rest 50% of the allotted hours that is given to a faculty, he or she has to conduct an experiential learning component where related to the subject. Okay. For instance, marketing faculty, when teaching branding, can do a branding gamification, okay, can ask them to launch a product and such, but that will be completely engagement related group task, okay, and it is inbuilt in our curriculum, in our academic delivery. Then we have something called individual learning. Student has to learn on their own, and the same thing they are going to apply when they do it in experiential learning. So it is in every module, every subject, that they can align their experiential learning component into their subject. That is one way to look at it. Now at an institute level, we have something called CMAPS, collaborative multidisciplinary approach to problem solving. Now, this is in partnership with the industry. Okay. And we get live problem statements from the industry, okay, through our network. And the students, group of students, multidisciplinary in approach, they are the one who solve the problem statement. Okay. And in the real setting with the industry people, they are in the context of that organization who has given the problem statement. And these are like mini internships. They are not the final internship. They are mini internship. After term 2, they do one. And after so these are like illustration, like real life settings. So what happens, ma'am, is that sometimes student may say, I want to go for marketing. Now, if they do specialize in marketing, I want to have a career in marketing. But if they go through these mini industry expeditions, okay, within the curriculum, which is built within the curriculum, they may say, hey, I'm not really made up for this. Maybe something else. So give students a litmus test in finding out what they're comfortable in. So this is one way to look at it. Another way, we have something is called consulting aptitude potential. That is in term 4, when somebody has done 2 mini industry expedition, like I was telling, and then the final internship of 2 months as AICT dictates. Then they come back and they are quite familiar with many business setting problems and how to solve them. They have the requisite knowledge. Then they go about selling their services real time. Okay. It is not without free, it's not pro bono. So they're going out into the industry and selling, the small scale industries, okay, the companies selling their services, whether it is in digital marketing or in developing a stronger revenue model or a proper campaign of the company. So that's how basically we are trying to integrate experiential learning all across our curriculum, whether it is within a faculty or in the institute wise.
So basically, it's not a separate thing. It's not that there is academic learning and then there is experiential learning. Experiential is a part of.
Embedded.
Of.
It is completely embedded. Right?
Exactly. Okay. Thank you, Professor Elora. So, Professor Bulbul, you had mentioned, when you were talking earlier about internships and the importance of choosing the right internships. You had also mentioned the importance of mentorship and guidance, right? So, what role do mentors have in making sure that the experiential learning is of value and useful to students?
Answer that, Prasanna. I just have one question to ask you before that.
Sure.
Is the audience today largely students? Of course, I understand they're educators.
They're not students.
Okay. So, but they're educators who are working with children until class 12?
Basically, they could be professionals, they could be career professionals, teachers, parents. They're not students. They're all adults.
Yeah, why I said this is because, as a university, each of us, of course, works towards bringing in practical experience. But if we were talking to younger people, that means are the people, the educators who are working with, if they're working with younger children, when I say up to class 12, then the practical experience has to be built in very differently from the manner in which universities like us build it.
Correct.
As universities, we will, of course, bring in the internship, observerships, apprenticeships, mentorships, capstone projects, all of which is because we are all professional universities preparing young people for a professional life. So, after you finish 12th, you're going into a professional life through a professional education. And that is where the right balance of real life exposure, real life people, real life situations have to be given to the students so they're industry ready. But if you're talking,
so I would say then a large part of the people, I would say a large part of the educators here would be with school children. 9 to 12.
I thought so. So, which is why I want to talk more about what is it that we should do while they're still in school, right? Because the rest of it we'll take care of, in terms of capstones, internships, observerships, getting them master classes, getting them exposure to Shark Tanks and things like that. Prasanna, I'm a little bit of an old timer, and in having been a parent and having been a teacher for almost 25 years, I respect, I'm a big fan of all the innate individual human qualities. And of course, I'll come to mentorship, right? I do think there's a lot of value in, one is there's no rush to get some real life experience, right? Where you're 16, 17, you must see life as it's meant to be.
Yeah, you have the rest of your life to get that experience.
Absolutely. And like I said, of course, we are experiencing what we experienced at 40 is an experience we want at 20 today, right? But having said so, there is value in indulging in things that life will not give you time to do. So for instance, like Professor Nitin talked about trekking. When students come to me in school and parents say, you know what, they've got this summer break, and what do you advise they should do? And they think I'm going to tell them, go to do an internship here or do a project here or there. Of course, you could do that. But I would quite insist, I would very often find myself insisting they should go to the Himalayan Mountaineering Institute or Nehru Institute of Mountaineering, do a basic course in mountaineering, do an advanced course if you've done a basic one, because you must know your country. Most often I find students who've been born and raised in a particular city and may not have stepped out of that city. I think it's important to know your country. It's important to see a little bit of your country. There is value in reading. Well, of course, it's not a most popular hobby any longer. But you know, what we tagged as extracurriculars, what we tagged as hobbies, what we talk are very, very important and critical to your own upbringing, okay, to the person you will eventually become. And in doing that, you're likely to find yourself. Right? Of course, you will find it in life, in a college, in a university, like each of us. But you know, you will find yourself in those interactions with people. You will find yourself in meeting a diverse set of people that are not available to you to interact with on a daily basis, particularly in these times. Okay, because you want to have real interactions with real people. So I feel that, well, in school, let's look at all those opportunities. The other day, I was in a school in Jaipur, and apparently NEP has led to CBSE schools promoting, they matched two diverse states. So this was Assam and Rajasthan, two extremely diverse states. And these two states work together in inter-school workshops, exchange programs, teacher exchange programs, craft documentation and exchange programs. And I thought this was beautiful, because this mandate is percolating into schools for just two different geographies to understand one another. Because in a natural situation, someone from Jaipur is never likely to find himself in Assam and vice versa.
Correct.
And for me, there was the greatest respect for the kind of work that is happening and percolating in school. So you may not need to necessarily look out of what is available. We must make the most of what is available to us, because the student still has just 24 hours in a day. And he has his board examinations, and there is so much else you're grappling with and preparing for a NEET or an, you know, whatever examinations. To fill in much more may be difficult, but to be able to make most of what is available by way of what is a mandate, I think is where the beauty lies for the schools, to bring it to some amount of finesse and bring it to a large number of children in the school. I'm going to restrict this conversation largely to what happens until school, because like I said, in a college, you know, from the day they come, the first day, to the truth is, I keep telling the students, in your 4 years at Atlas, you're going to meet more people and more, you know, icons, more industrialists, more celebrities than I've met in my lifetime, right? But to be able to take with you, you know, their value and experience, you must have some your own, right? Otherwise, much of what they say is not likely to seep in, right? But if you
would seem like an abstract idea.
It is, yeah. Of course, you will probably, some of it will be valued much later in life.
Later,
you know,
correct.
It will move you, motivate you in a certain way. And that's why I keep saying this balance is very important. But traveling the country, reading, indulging in crafts, living in a certain village, even if you were to learn a certain craft, maybe Madhubani, maybe, or I remember there are parents I've come across who would necessarily go and spend a vacation in an Auroville, you know, where you saw cottage industries at work, you learned pottery by the side, you saw how small industries came together, right? And also very important for me, Prasanna, is whether it's a design school like mine, whether it's a business school, we also offer a business course, everything starts with a problem statement, right? What problem are we trying to solve? Because if you haven't experienced this country, what problems will you solve? Because that's an imagined problem that somebody told you should try and solve, right? So if you haven't gone out of your comfort zone, and many of our students we deal with come from fairly, you know, by God's blessing, they come from backgrounds that the exposure to these problems may not be available in your own house, right? What are the challenges of an elderly gentleman? If you don't have an elderly grandparent in your house, you won't know he needs to go to the washroom 10 times in a day because the prostrate may be enlarged. And therefore, the clothes you design for them may not need to be the kind of clothes you design for 17-year-olds, you know. So understanding people, understanding the country, understanding the challenges that we want to solve for this country, whether it is by bringing a high quality education, high quality, whatever, nourishment, etc. Your first-hand experience is what will motivate you to want to solve it. And to do that, you have to go out of your comfort zone, go to this country, understand this country. And it's, by the way, it's beautiful, I think. So, like I said, I'm a slightly old, and in this, your mentors will come along. You will come across people. I met a musician in Uttar Kashi. He was a Sri Lankan living in Uttar Kashi, teaching music therapy and healing people through music. And I thought that was beautiful. And I asked him, where did you learn this? He said, in Auroville. Right? And I think these conversations when you have, and he's a mentor without being called one.
Called a mentor, correct.
Huh?
Yeah.
So you will come across these people who will become mentor of life. And by the way, they will remain with you for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So I think those are the beautiful things to sort of hold on to in life, especially when you're in school.
So basically stepping outside the comfort zone, that is basically very important.
I would say so. If that's the way you want to say it, yes. I mean, just see the real country that you're in.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you, Professor Bulwer. So, Professor Nitin, finally, the idea of career exploration and finding a career that suits oneself, etc. Ultimately, the goal is to learn and then join an industry, right? So, therefore, what role do industry partnerships play in creating meaningful learning opportunities for students? And so on, how can educational institutes, both schools and higher degree institutions, how can they use and collaborate with industries to make sure that these experiences are meaningful? Professor Nitin, you're on mute.
So what I look at experiential learning, there are 3 steps. First is sharing of knowledge and experience by the industry experts. Second is mentorship by those experts. And third is actually working on the job or maybe in the class for, as I said, application exercises. Okay. So what industry partnership add value is in the terms of sharing the success and failure stories and lessons learned during the successful and failed projects. Sharing use cases, live examples of tools like design and management tools. For example, if it is a designer, I don't know how many engineers are there, but if a designer means if an engineer wants to become a designer, unless he knows a practical tool like design failure modes and effects analysis, which is called as DFMEA, unless he knows in the class, he will be blank when he starts working. Okay. Similarly, I always ask all entrepreneurs who are or to be entrepreneurs from MBA or BBA classes, whenever they put very innovative products they put up, but I ask them, how many customers have you met? That is the first step that they don't do, which comes out of practical experience. Okay. I ask them how many customers are really wanting this product, for whom you are solving this problem. And many times they are blank. And I make sure that my students, because our Vijay Bhumi University is a first liberal university which has courses like research incubation, innovation incubation, okay, or execution excellence, which are the things which make you interact with the industry experts or the professors of practice or mentors, okay, so that they actually work on projects which are practical and give a solution which is real time. Okay. So this is one area, okay, like teaching them the tools through used cases which are practically useful when they go on to the job. Okay. From the historic projects which need not be confidential. Okay. Also making students a part of the project of the industry. Okay. Students can contribute through their fresh ideas, because what industry expects from them, that they are having clean slate. So they will be having fresh ideas, innovative thoughts, thinking, okay, and sharing their latest learnings. Like sometimes it might happen that experts or industry people might not know some new techniques. Like for example, Chat GPT. Students might have learned it latest. They might be doing something better than them. So this can be the learnings they can apply for the industry projects. Okay. So like as I said, meeting customers is the first step to creating a product, which cannot be done by sitting in R&D. So one of the best example, okay, which is there right now, I don't know how many of you know, like how this is a best example of industry and academia collaboration. Okay, right now there is a inauguration happening of Baja SAE competition, which is a competition of making off-road vehicles by students all over India from engineering colleges. I'm not aware much about MBA colleges, but this is a very good forum for engineering students to work with industry, they present these products to the industry veterans. They get their inputs, they learn a lot, and they are rewarded also. Okay, they are given great rewards. So this is a best example, and it is not new. It is running at least for last 10-20 years. So it is an excellent example of academia and industry. So similarly, such kind of competitions can raise the industry and academia collaboration. So these are my thoughts.
Thank you so much, Professor Nitin. That was very insightful. Lots of different ideas. So Dr. Garima, you had mentioned virtual reality earlier. So I'd like to ask you basically for students, and institutions that either because of social and economical background or because of where they are, or for whatever reasons, people who might not have access to be able to have these kind of experiential learning projects in person, right? How would, like you had mentioned, virtual reality, how would that help benefit these students?
That's a fantastic question. And I'll tell you, half the battle is actually won. If you compare the internet penetration rate from 2012 to 2022, we have quadrupled. We have jumped from 12% internet penetration rates to currently at 48%. Somebody in the participant can actually check. They will give you the right percentage. It's 48 or 49%. And we have jumped, we've increased 4 times. So which means internet is already accessible to about 40%, 50% of Indians today. So now that we have almost overcome accessing technology, what happens now is getting the education reaching them through that internet. When internet is there, half the battle is won. So now these distance education program, online resources, YouTube, for example, whatever, we get a lot of CEOs and industry experts in our business school, and we record all the 1 hour lectures that they give and we put it up on YouTube. So we actually put all these lectures out so as anybody can access it. And if internet is there, it is available. So that is why I say, when internet is there, these open online schools and classes, there are so many free resources available today. So that is one way that the people who are a little weaker in terms of social and economic resources can actually use the same. The second way to go about is definitely getting them the right financial opportunities and funding. The scholarships can help students in a great way today. And of course, we all know that the education industry actually has lack of funding. So that is one institutional barrier that we have. While virtual reality is a fantastic way to let the experiential learning reach out to students of all economic backgrounds, the logistical barriers still exist. They are still costly. There's the apparatus, the headset that they wear is still extremely difficult to access. Right. So I think while virtual reality has great opportunity and a potential future in the future, the fact that the internet penetration rate is going up in the country is one way to first capitalize. Correct. And the other way, one is that letting the internet reach out, and the other way is actually concentrating all the resources that are currently available. People may not have the right information. There is information asymmetry in the country today in knowing what all free things I have available. And therefore, the third step is actually for us in terms of policy to come together and actually making sure that they are accessible, they are available, and here you go. So that's, I think, India has a far better potential in terms of reaching out this asymmetry today.
Thank you, Dr. Garma. Professor Laura, so with technology rapidly changing, when industry is continuing to evolve, how can the experiential programs that are run in schools and in colleges, etc., what do they need to do to constantly be adapting to these rapid changes?
One of the challenges, okay, so I will address your question, but I'm just telling you the background. One of the challenges for any school or colleges to adapt technology because technology is part of us. We are meeting also virtually. So that's thanks to
Yes.
technology. So
Yes.
I think the limitation of resources is a huge challenge, okay, for schools and colleges. Even though digitally, we say that we have advanced, but digital poverty is also there. That is another angle. Now you coming back to your question with this premise that, it does take a lot of resources. Okay, how government can help us, that is different discussion point altogether. I think at the end of the day, technology is what is driving innovation. Okay, it's a circle. It's a circle. Innovation is driving technology. Technology driving innovation. And I think, like the other speakers said, when it is artificial intelligence, whether it is virtual reality, augmented reality, I think these are going to be part and parcel of our future and in our education. So I think it would be good for schools and colleges to adapt it. Now, certain schools and colleges may be limited in resources, both in terms of teaching resources, in terms of technology and financial resources. So that's where I think the connection with the industry becomes very important, through networking, through grants, they can collaborate with industries, like we are in our school collaborating with Mindtree to come up with our undergraduate, artificial intelligence and machine learning courses. Because if you look at the knowledge base, we are predominantly was a management institute. So technology is something we had to learn, we have to adapt. We know that. We are going to infuse it in our curriculum. And that's why we have collaborated with an industry. So I think schools and colleges definitely have to make it a part of their curriculum. Not to go into very detail, but I think students nowadays or young kids nowadays are very, very well versed with technology, and they're easy to adapt it. Okay, I think they're much more adaptable that ways. And I think the earlier they start, I think it would become more easier. So I think we have many educators here, 9 to 12, as you said, under in the high school level. So I think that's high school level when it should start. It should not be taken as science, technology means science. It's not that. Okay, there are so many simulations which people can learn easily. Yes, there are codings are there, that's there. But I think school and colleges definitely had to adapt it. And one way to do it is to connection through the industry, partnership with industry, collaboration with industry. I think that will be a win-win situation. What will happen? When the industry is telling, okay, this is the product, and your student goes through that product, and the most likely they are the one who will absorb. These companies are the one who will absorb your student. So it will become an ecosystem in itself, I think. And that's how I think I would like to see, the industry and the school and the colleges to collaborate together.
Thank you so much, Professor Laura. That was a great, very, very insightful. So now we are all, I don't know how, it's almost been an hour now since we've been talking. So final question, which I would like all of you to answer, right? What advice would you give to educational institutes that want to start or, enhance their experiential learning programs, right? What advice would you give? What should they be looking out for? What should they be focusing on? What advice would you give? Professor Bulbul?
Again, advice to schools or colleges?
Schools, colleges, institute, because finally, we're going to go through all of those, right? So
I think what I think is when you sit and make your curriculum, integrate practical learning with the curriculum. Don't consider it as a topping for another day, right? One guest faculty once in a while. Integrate in a curriculum, and it's quite easy to do that. Let's say if I was teaching sportswear, I would think of inviting a guest speaker at that point from Nike, right? Or a Reebok, or I would think of a shop report integrated towards a sort of a shop report. And I'm giving you examples from our teaching space, but maybe it's also possible to do this in school. If you're teaching them civics, maybe somebody should come from a social structure and come and address, because otherwise, you're learning something, but you don't know who is an NP or who is. And I think that integration, or if you're teaching them about, water cycle, and actually see even how water works in your own city. How does the water come into your tap, right? Where is the dam? Where does the water go from? I'm not saying it's always easy, but I do think it is possible. So if you integrate your practical learning into your curriculum, right, it will lead to planning at that stage. As a teacher, you'll start thinking, who is the kind of right person to come and talk to them at this point? What is the right exposure? Where can I take them for a visit? Right? And then the learning becomes so much more rich, right? And actually, I would think there's a small exercise we used to do is, let's say we are learning this, right? Let's say I'm saying today we are going to learn sportswear. Okay, over the next 3 months we are doing, or 2 months we are doing sportswear. What is everything under the sportswear you want to learn? The students come and start, and on a board, we would start writing every day on Post-it. I want to learn this. I want to learn about active sportswear. I want to learn about casual wear. And then there were things beyond what that I would have thought of teaching in that module. And then towards the end, when you've done it all, take a tick box and start saying, oh, did we cover this? Did we cover this? Did we cover this? Did we have this? The sense of fulfillment, the sense of learning, the sense of outcomes, and the module having gotten complete is huge. And there's a lot of learning for the teacher as well in the process. You go beyond what you may have thought of. So I think
the students are much more engaged, right? Because they were the ones who said, this is what we wanted to learn.
So just integrate the practical into the theory, and do this at the timetable stage by way of discussions that teachers could have amongst themselves. And this can happen across any of the levels, right? Whether it's school or whether it's college. And I just think that this integration is beautiful because it'll bring in the full sort of learning for the child in the process.
Thank you, Professor Bulbul. Professor Nitin, your advice?
As I said earlier also, there are 4 levels at which this can be done. First is getting the entrepreneurs, or who have done it actually, who have delivered. Like we are calling a blind entrepreneur who is having a 250 crores turnover, and he has got 117 Paralympic medals. All this he has done from zero. He has employed 2,500 blind people. So he is doing 2 things. One is entrepreneurship, and second is giving back to the society. So these are the kind of examples we have to set to the students, okay, so that they get motivated to be an entrepreneur and while returning back to the society, okay. So this is one level. So calling entrepreneurs who have done it, who are successful. And second thing is like giving them mentors from the industry or like professors of practice who are having industry experience and expertise, who can inculcate this experiential learning to them through practical projects. Third level is actually creating or setting industry academia collaboration through competitions. As I gave an example of Baja SAE, similar kind of competitions will arouse their interest, make them more entrepreneur kind of attitude will be generated. And fourth thing is doing joint projects before they go to the job, okay. So doing the industry also interested, okay. So getting them those opportunities is the job of the academia, to get that collaboration to do joint projects. So I think these 4 things will give them the right confidence, the soft and hard skills, and readiness for the job or the entrepreneurship. So this will, I am confident that these things will guarantee to give them that all the exposure and learning. So this is what I think.
This is the advice you would give. Great. Thank you. Dr. Garima?
I would like to follow Professor Bulbul's way of answering the question. I think she does a fantastic way. She first segments the market and then talks about it. I would also like to adopt her strategy and first give you the answer as to what would school students be benefited from and what our higher education could be done. If I were a school student, back when I were a school student, I would have been extremely happy had I heard from the experiences of my seniors. The role models that we had in schools were always our teachers and our parents, but we never know where our seniors ended up getting placed. So maybe we could come up with a day every fortnight in schools and get the alumni come and share their experience, so we could have a variety and a host of diversified role models to look up to. And that will also help us in understanding what subjects lead to what consequences in the future. The second, which is the higher education industry, which is the undergrad, postgrad, and even PhD, I would like to focus on Professor Nitin's answer, which is actually the word is collaboration. I don't think, 5 years going down the line, subjects could be only taught by professors. They have to be co-taught by industry experts. For example, I teach this elective called data analysis and econometrics, where 75% of classes are taken by me, but whatever submissions, coding, interpretations, they always go to the industry experts and they evaluate the final presentation. Then you have that feedback coming in from the right people also. So co-teaching is the way forward. Second, I was thinking that, why not have faculty exchange programs too and learn from who's actually doing the experiential learning programs. So I think the word is collaboration to finally summarize your question.
Thank you, Dr. Garima. Professor Elora, your advice?
Yeah. I think all the three panelists, eminent panelists, has said, echoes my sentiment. I would like to focus very much on the faculty training as well. Okay, at the school level or college level. I think to bring in that kind of an experiential learning to engage the students, the faculty will also require that kind of a support. Okay, and that's where one of the panelists talked about co-teaching. So co-teaching can be done by an alumnus, whether at a school level or a college level. Very, very important. They should be integrated as part of that your learning process. Second is, of course, something we practice community learning. So in community learning, the student is not only learning from the faculty, the student is also learning from the people who are already walked the path. Okay, and they have like the mentors you are talking about, industry mentors. It can be an industry person, practitioner, an entrepreneur, like Dr. Nitin was talking about, or it could be your alumnus who comes in and says, or it could be another faculty from another college, okay, and as an exchange. So the person is not only learning from their own faculty, but also from others. So it gives a variety. So definitely it becomes more, I think the impressions are much more, strongly building. Okay, like I said, it has to be inbuilt into our curriculum, the experiential learning part. Okay, whether it is in curricular level, co-curricular level, or extracurricular level, we have to engage the students at every level. It's not just at the curricular level, but extracurricular level also. So experiential learning can a variety. I think you should give variety to the students. Otherwise it will become monotonous. And when you were at such a young age, we knew what we wanted to do.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we should keep that thing in mind always. If I were in that place, would they like to stay 10 hours in the seat, or they would like to go out and have an outdoor discussion?
Try different things.
That is a very, very important question we need to ask.
Yeah.
I just want to add one point. If I'm allowed, like what Professor Elora exactly said, that it need not be always only projects, because it is boring sometimes or many times. So what we all thought and agreed, like extracurricular activities, like trekking is one example. But we as professors have to be innovative to make it more entertaining, interesting for them, to find such opportunities to give them experiential learning through such activities. It can be a social immersion program, for example. So these are the things. So these also we have to think it need not be always industry projects.
Always industry.
Yeah. So this is the only point I wanted to add.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Bulbul, Professor Nitin, Dr. Garima, Professor Elora. I've taken so many notes from what you had said. Very, very insightful. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time and being with us.
Thank you. Thing.
Yes. Yes.
You've been a wonderful moderator.
I have been in so many panels.
So fantastic. I echo that. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I can't tell you. And going forward, I wish I can have you over to my college and moderate these experts. I was thinking that there were so many questions and so many panelists, and I thought, you know what, there might be this lag and it's in the internet, and I don't know how to take it forward. But fabulous, you did a fabulous job. I had to say that. Sorry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much to all the panelists for taking out time today and sharing your expertise. It was enlightening for all of us. Thank you once more, and wish you a very good day ahead. To all the
Thank you. Bye-bye.
With that, I'll take a moment to just inform our lovely ICCC participants that tomorrow by 8:45 a.m. you have to be there. And the very first session will be given by Dr. N.K. Chatta. So tomorrow you have lots of things, lots of surprises are waiting for you, as it's our 70th COVID. So be there tomorrow, and wish you a very good day ahead now. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.